free traffic to your store, free traffic to your products, viral content, and an endless supply of customers. If you're an e-commerce owner, this probably sounds like the ideal situation for you. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to beat the Pinterest algorithm as an e-commerce owner so you can generate more sales and revenue. And this video is suitable for e-commerce brands that are thinking about starting to use Pinterest, or you're an e-commerce brand that's already on Pinterest but not quite seeing the results that you were expecting, not quite sure what to do, and with the endless supply of information that's out there, you're not quite sure what the first steps are or even the next steps to take things forward in a more meaningful way. Hi, my name is Craig Lewis and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, the types of videos that you can expect are Pinterest for e-commerce, entrepreneurship and digital marketing. If this is the first time here, please leave a comment below and let me know what you think of this video after you finish watching. Please subscribe so that you will be one of the first to be notified for all future videos, which I publish one per week on the topics of Pinterest, entrepreneurship and digital marketing. So yeah, let's get right into today's video and look at how to beat the Pinterest algorithm so that you as an e-commerce brand can see the results that you were expecting and grow on a different channel to maximize sales, revenue, leads and traffic. Beating the Pinterest algorithm, mastering the Pinterest algorithm, viral content and Pinterest algorithm exposed. These are the kinds of phrases and terminology that keep brand owners stuck. You've probably already noticed that anyone who tries to beat an algorithm tends to stay stuck. And what I mean is, algorithms are not there to be beaten, they're there to be used and understood. And there's a totally different mindset and intention behind moving into a platform such as Pinterest with the mindset of, I'm going to beat the algorithm, we're going to master Pinterest and we're going to basically beat the algorithm and outperform the algorithm and outperform everyone else. And the truth is that's typically not what happens. And that's the case for any other platform. The YouTube algorithm is another one, Instagram is another one, Facebook is another one, so is TikTok. It's not the point of, in my opinion, to beat any algorithm. The point from what we've seen in my agency and the personal sites that we have on Pinterest is to understand the algorithm and actually work in harmony with it. And when we come from a place of understanding and working with the Pinterest algorithm, it's very, very different to trying to beat it, trying to outperform anything. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at understanding the algorithm so that you can move forward as a brand owner and rank your products and content in the short term and also in the long term. Because Pinterest is a search engine. I think still a lot of people miss that aspect of it. It's not a social media platform. It's very much a search engine, and with search engine comes very different activities and tasks for your content, images and products to be shown to the right people in the short term and the long term. So today we're going to look at the 8 different ways that we've seen to implement into your Pinterest strategy as an e-commerce owner to work in harmony with the Pinterest algorithm. And the first one is fresh pins. It's only quite recently that the definition of what a fresh pin is has come to light, and people who use Pinterest are getting to understand what this actually means. Just to give you an idea, previously, a fresh pin was classified as any image that could be pinned onto Pinterest with a link back to your site that Pinterest had seen before, but if you give it a new pin description, that was classed as a fresh pin. However, the recent suggestions and guidance is to only use that pin once. For example, if you make a lifestyle image that links back to jewelry, fashion, or any other physical product that you have on your site, the rationale and the idea behind fresh pins is once you've made that pin with the text overlay on the image, and I'll show a couple of examples of what this looks like so that you can see it as a visual. Once that pin has been seen on Pinterest and it has a description that you write for that pin can never be pinned again because it's no longer classified as a fresh pin. And we've actually seen over the last 6 to 9 months that accounts that use duplicate content, so recycled pins that have been used before, even with a new description, don't seem to be found on the platform. If anything, they are dampened down, and the reach of the overall pin doesn't seem to be anywhere near the same as it would be with a fresh pin. And this is exactly in line with what Pinterest is suggesting brand owners and content creators to do, is to focus the energy on and your time on fresh pins, and with fresh pins comes new descriptions. So yeah, before brand owners and content creators could continue to use the same pin multiple times throughout a year, even sometimes throughout a quarter, but now the focus is very much on fresh pins, so new pins, consistently pushing out new content. So that's number one. The focus is to be on fresh pins. Number two, this is actually one of the benefits and one of the massive pros, in my opinion, of using Pinterest as a brand owner and a content creator, and even as myself, who's someone who runs a Pinterest marketing agency, we see this particular aspect as a massive bonus. And this one is creating multiple pins for the same product or content or link or landing page to your site. As a very basic overview, let's say there's a product that you have on your site. Pinterest suggests, and there's even a filter within Tailwind, which I'll also show a screenshot of, where they're giving spam stroke checklist recommendations of how many pins to use. And again, this is based on what Pinterest has suggested to do. It's okay to make anything from 3 to 10 pins per product. And what this means is, as long as the pins look different, we can use different text, we can use different images, we can move the images around, we can have different styles of pins, so that we could have carousel pins, we could have the image at the top of the pin, the product in the middle of the pin. There are a wide range of alternatives that we can do for creating multiple pins. And just as an example, what we're currently testing out with a couple of clients' accounts in the e-commerce space in particular is we're now creating 10 pins for one product at the same time, and we're launching all of those images onto Pinterest within a few days of each other. I'll talk a little bit more about the strategy, but just to give you an idea, it's perfectly fine to make anything from 3 to 10 pins per post at any given time. This is actually what Pinterest have suggested to do, and there are various different reasons for that. The one that we've seen to be helpful in understanding why it's okay to use multiple pins for the same product is that not everyone who uses Pinterest who is interested in your particular product will resonate with the same image. And what that means is we have an opportunity to create a different look, a different feel, a different way of attracting someone for the same product, depending on how it's displayed and presented. The text will make it different, the alignment of the image will make it different, the orientation of the image will make it different. It all matters when it comes to speaking to the right audience at the right time on Pinterest. So yeah, create multiple pins for the same product is absolutely fine. Number 3, the best tip for understanding the Pinterest algorithm and working in harmony with it is to stop sharing your own content on the platform. There are various different terminology and language for this, but there's what's called resharing and repinning. And to give you an idea, pre-2018, 2019, it was common practice for content creators to pin an image onto Pinterest from their blog or from their product Shopify store onto Pinterest. Then what would happen is they would log into Pinterest themselves, either on the phone or on the laptop, and then pin the same image into many different boards all at the same time. That was very common practice, and that's quite detrimental to do that as a content creator now. That's actually one of the quickest ways to get your account flagged as spam. It will definitely not be beneficial in terms of the reach of individual products and individual pins. So yeah, the best way to do this and approach this is to either manually pin images from your blog to individual boards, never within the platform itself, or use a scheduling software such as Tailwind, which is an approved partner and pretty much safe to use. It's actually the scheduling software that we use with all our clients. So yeah, it's a good idea to avoid using Pinterest itself as a way of sharing your own content. Instead, only ever do it from an outside source. And an outside source, I mean your actual website or a Tailwind or another scheduling software. So no more sharing your own content on Pinterest itself. Number 4, on how to understand the Pinterest algorithm and start ranking your products and content is pin your own content to the most relevant board first. And I'll show a couple of examples so you guys can see exactly what this means. But the more relevant the board, so the title and the description within the board itself is to the product that you're pinning or the piece of content that you're pinning, the higher the chances that Pinterest will show this content within the feed and within the search bar as a way of organically showing your own content. The relevancy is probably one of the biggest factors that we've seen within my Pinterest agency with the clients that we work with on how we're able to generate traffic to our client sites quite quickly, is that we only ever focus on relevant boards for individual products. One of the suggestions from Pinterest is to again, it's okay to pin the same content, so the same pin, to multiple boards. However, what Pinterest suggests is anything from, I think it's 3, a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 10 boards. You don't want to pin the same pin to 10 different boards. What we've seen work well is below that number. So we tend to use the same pin. So we will take an image and a piece of content from our client site, and we will pin that from anything from 3 to 5 boards. But the way that we do it is we keep every single board as highly relevant as possible. We don't tend to come away too much from what the image is about. The more relevant we can make it, the higher the chance that Pinterest understands it and that people on Pinterest can actually find it. So relevancy is very, very important. There's no need to put your images and your Pinterest content into random boards that have no relevancy in terms of other board names at all. This also goes back to setting up an account in a very structured way and only having boards that are relevant to the content on your site anyway. Again, I've spoken about this in different videos, but the more focused account that you have in terms of board names adds to the relevancy factor, and it makes it way easier to pin content into more relevant boards at the same time at any given time. Number 5 on how to understand the Pinterest algorithm is, this is actually very specific and it's related to the strategy. And again, strategy is different for every account at all times. But from what we've seen and the hundreds of accounts that we've tested, when we use Tailwind, and again, I'll provide a screenshot of what this looks like so you can find this feature for yourself. there is a feature within Tailwind called interval. And by interval, you're able to set the time interval or the day interval for when content is published. If you recall just a moment ago, what I mentioned is we can pin the same pin into multiple boards, anything up to 10. However, what we don't want to get caught in is doing this manually. So the way that we can overcome doing this manually is to automate it, and we can automate it in Tailwind. However, we still need to make sure that the pin is going out at the right time with the right interval strategy into the most relevant boards. As a rule of thumb, you can do anything up to a minimum of 2 days. I've seen some accounts that used to use 24 hours, some accounts that used to use 12 hours and less between each time the pin was pinned onto Pinterest. What we've seen work well is anything from a 3-day interval up to a 7-day interval. After a 7-day interval, we tend to see a drop off. So again, test this out for yourselves, but a 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7-day interval seems to work pretty well, and it gives it enough time for each individual pin to be found on Pinterest. So the daily interval is a factor in a pin strategy, and the more we can understand what interval works best, the higher the chances that all of your content will be found that link back to your products. So yeah, pin interval is a good strategy. Number 6. We've spoke about this in a different video, and I think what I'll do is I've come to realize as I'm going through each of these points within the list, I have other videos that are also specific to each of these points. However, this video is actually bringing them all together in one place. And this one is keywords and how to do keyword research on Pinterest so that you can add these specific phrases and words into your pin descriptions and even onto your pin images themselves. The more specific we can be with using the exact phrases and terms that people are actually looking for on Pinterest and the Pinterest are telling us that people are using, the higher the chance that it's going to be found. Again, this also links back into board titles. We can use the keyword research to add specific board titles, but if we have a pin that is specific for a certain product that you have and it matches a buyer intent, so it's very specific in what it says on that image, and that text also matches to the board title and the description within that board, you're on to the higher level of relevancy, Pinterest SEO, and it's giving that individual piece of content every chance on Pinterest to perform exceptionally well. So the more specific we can be with the keywords and the keyword research, the higher chance that you have of that product ranking on Pinterest in the short term and also in the long term. Number 7 on understanding the Pinterest algorithm as an e-commerce owner is consistency. And by consistency, I'm referring to the amount of times you pin per day over a consistent period of time. What we've seen over the last few years is some accounts would be very active. So for example, they would pin anything from 5 to 10 images a day for a couple of days, and then it would tail off, and then it would drop off back to like 0 sometimes it would be 1 pin, 2 pin, and then what happens is they find some motivation and get back into using Pinterest again, but instead of going back to the same frequency that of pins that were going out per day, they would ramp up to anything from 10 pins, 20 pins, 30 pins, 40 pins per day. The inconsistency is very confusing. It confuses Pinterest, especially in they're not quite sure what's going on. It's going from a low volume consistency of daily pins that go out to a very high volume. We've actually seen accounts get shut down for that. So it's a good idea to remain as consistent as possible. Again, this goes back to using a scheduler and automating as much of this as possible. But the more consistent we can be over time, the better. And using something like Tailwind is a great way to do this. As a general rule of thumb, what we've seen is, and this is based on some of the research that's been undertaken by companies like Tailwind, and even Pinterest have suggested this is a good idea of how consistent to be each day. The best performing accounts in terms of organic traffic and understanding the Pinterest algorithm post anything from 15 to 25 times a day. We've actually seen with some of our clients' accounts that we pin 10 pins or less per day, and we can see that those accounts actually perform just as well as accounts that pin up to 25 pins a day. The only difference is that we've created highly relevant content, high quality content, but it's also relevant to the products that are linked on the site themselves. So consistency is key. It's not a good idea to go from 5 pins a day, 10 pins a day, 20 pins a day, 50 pins a day. Pick a number within a range of 10 pins a day to 25 pins a day. And there's a specific reason why 25 is the maximum. Some of the research that's been done and also some of the suggestions from Pinterest is 25 and up per day can be seen as spam and a bit excessive in terms of the amount of content that goes out. And also we've tested this within some of the accounts that we've seen over the last couple of years, and an account that pins 25 pins a day and an account that pins 50 plus pins a day, there's no difference in traffic from Pinterest at all. So there's a point of diminishing returns where more is certainly not better, and it looks like less is actually better in the case of being consistent and the amount of pins that go out per day. The last tip, so tip number 8 on understanding the Pinterest algorithm as an e-commerce owner, is Pinterest trends. This is probably suitable for the majority of brands because the way the Pinterest trends has worked and evolved over the last couple of years is that we can access information that Pinterest is freely giving brand owners and content creators to our advantage. For example, if we use the link, and I'll provide the link in the description box below, we can use the feature within Pinterest and we can see what types of trends, what types of content, what niches, is there anything in particular that's taking off right now, and we can use that to our advantage. So for example, in autumn, so in fall, clearly in the run-up until this particular time of year, the search volume and the trending topics are way higher than they are any other time of the year. This is just a very basic example. We've seen the Pinterest trends feature improve quite a lot over the last few years, and we're also seeing now that you have the ability to use the Pinterest trends feature in the UK, the US and Canada, whereas previously it was just in the US. Now we have the options of using all 3 locations, and there are many different ways that you can use this to your advantage as an e-commerce owner. There are and will be ideas that you can create content around to suit some of the trending topics. What's a good idea and a good time frame to have in mind is Pinterest users tend to start looking on Pinterest around 6 to 8 weeks prior to an event happening. So as an idea, if Halloween is coming up, for example, which it is this week, what would have been a good idea if you have any content or any products that were remotely related to Halloween, what we would advise to do as an agency owner and also anyone watching these videos is for our clients to start looking for content that they have on their site that can be used in the run-up to Halloween. If they don't have it, it might be a good idea to create 1 or 2 different articles or 1 or 2 different images that are somewhat related to Halloween. And what we've seen is over the 6 to 8 weeks in the run-up to this event, these pins and products and images do gain traction, and it does work very well. And the amount of information on Pinterest trends now is high, and I'm pretty sure that as a product owner, as an e-commerce owner, there will be topics at certain times of the year that are trending that you can definitely use to your advantage to gain more momentum and to further increase already what's in place for some products that you might already have. So yeah, that's it guys. That is how to understand the Pinterest algorithm as an e-commerce owner so you can generate more sales and revenue. As I mentioned before in the beginning of this video, beating the algorithm is not the point. You cannot beat the algorithm on any platform. The idea is to understand it and work in harmony with the Pinterest algorithm so that you can rank products, run better paid ad campaigns, create better images, find better keywords, and create a more focused Pinterest account that sets your brand up for the short term and the long term. If you've liked today's video, please remember to hit the subscribe button so that you can get notified of all future videos, and please leave a comment below if you found this video valuable, or if you see that something that you've tested within Pinterest yourself could also be added into this list.